Hey seniors, congratulations on finishing your first benchmark. Today is going to be a day where we just kind of review a couple of things that you guys saw in the benchmark that we need a little more practice on. And I know you guys are probably tired of scientific notation, but today is going to be all about multiplying and dividing in scientific notation because I think that's a skill that we really need to focus on because I'm not sure that we're 100% strong with it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right in. On your notes page, go ahead and draw your line and go ahead and write multiplying and dividing in scientific notation in the top left-hand corner. You don't need to write this down, you just need to be with me. All right, so when multiplying and dividing in scientific notation, I do not care about my exponents. All I have to do is remember the MADS rule. And of course, I recall that when I multiply, I add my exponents. When I'm dividing, I subtract my exponents. So let's go right into an example. Go ahead and write example 1 on your notes page. You can go ahead and write this first example down, and these exponents are -4 and -1. All right, so I know because of the parentheses that I'm multiplying here. So all I have to do is remember my MADS rule here. I'm going to multiply my coefficients. I'm going to add my exponents. So let's go ahead and multiply out 8.1 times 2, and of course I know from math intervention that I ignore my decimal until the very end. So 2 times 1 is 2, and then 2 times 8 is 16. I have one number behind my decimal, so I'm going to add it there. And my exponents, I'm going to go ahead and add those. I have -4 plus -1, and that's going to give me -5. Whoops. Times 10 to the -5. All right, this would almost be close to being our answer, except I see that my coefficient is not in proper scientific notation. So I have to remember my good friend Lars. I'm going to move it one spot to the left, and that means I'm going to add 1 to my exponent. So my final answer is 1.62 times 10 to the -4. Remember, all I did there was multiply my coefficients and added my exponents. Let's do another one. All right, example 2. The Brady Apple Company produced 1.8 times 10 to the 6 apples each year for 4 years. What was the total number of, whoops, that should say apples, total number of apples the Brady Apple Company produced during these 4 years? All right, I know that 1.8 times 10 to the 6 is how much it produced in 1 year because my word problem says each year. And I know that it produced that same number every year for 4 years. So I could add 1.8 times 10 to the 6 over and over and over again, or I could just multiply it. Let's go ahead and multiply it out. 1.8 times 10 to the 6 times 4. Now, since 4 is a naked number, I know that that means times 10 to the 0. And all I have to do here, again, is remember my MADS rule. 1.8 times 4 is going to come out to 7.2. And then all I have to do is add my exponents times 10 to the 6. Super easy. So then I look over and I see what my answer choices are, and I see that answer choice A is the answer that came out to. Let's move on. All right, example 3. If I have 6.3 times 10 to the 8th over 3.0 times 10 to the 3rd, I know because of my line that this means I'm going to divide. And the way that I divide this is I just do top in, bottom out, and then I subtract my exponents. Let's go ahead and do top in, bottom out. Again, I'm going to ignore my decimal until the end. 3 goes into 6 twice. 3 times 2 is 6. That leaves me with 3. 3 goes into 3 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. Leaves me with 0. And I know that I had one decimal or one number behind the decimal, so I know that my final answer is 2.1. Then I'm going to subtract my exponents. 8 minus 3 is 5. I have 2.1 times 10 to the 5th. Again, all I did there was I divided my coefficients, I subtracted my exponents. Let's do another one. All right, how many times greater is 6.3 times 10 to the 3rd than 3 times 2 to the 2nd? All right, if I want to set this up, first I need to figure out what operation am I using. So I'm going to look at my problem, and I see that it says how many times greater. Oops, come on, pen. How many times greater? And of course I know that how many times greater means I'm going to divide every single time. So if I had 6.3 times 10 to the third over 3 times 10 to the second. Of course, I just divided this out in my earlier problem. I just wanted to remind you guys of how many times greater. 6.3 divided by 3 is going to be 2.1. And then 3 minus 2 is going to give me times 10 to the first power. And that's going to be my final answer. But we have to remember that every single time it says how many times greater, how many times larger, that always means divide. All right, guys, that's going to be it for me today. I promise this is the last day we'll see scientific notation in lesson form, although you will see it on your homework. All right, let's go ahead and practice.